All right, now to our first conversation, and definitely it's outside our shores at this point, as Kenya reels from violent protests marking the anniversary of last year's anti-tax uprising, with at least 16 people killed and 400 plus injured in clashes with police. We also see breaking news today. President William Ruto signed the 2025 finance bill into law, igniting fresh tensions in a nation already grappling with police brutality, accusations, and economic discontent. Well, joining us to unpack this, we have Steve Ogutu, who's a policy expert from Kenya. Hello, Steve. Great to have you.
Hello, Larry. It's a pleasure to join you this afternoon.
Fantastic. So what's it like over there in Kenya today? We're also getting reports there that President Ruto has signed the bill into law.
Yes, just today he signed over the 2025 finance bill. Now it's a law now this morning. And if you remember yesterday, we had protests across the country. It is actually the first anniversary of similar protests that we had last year that largely were driven by the finance bill 2024 that was viewed by majority of Kenyans as very punitive because of the kind of taxes that were being introduced. And so yesterday's protests were largely to commemorate the lives that were lost then and to continue pushing for reforms in terms of good governance, in terms of reducing the cost of living and creating opportunities. Because as we speak, Kenya's unemployment rate is the largest in the East Africa region, standing at about 30%. So the bill that was signed this morning by President Ruto, I think the government really learned from the mistake they made last year. And I think they tried to listen to people. We didn't have much of taxes introduced to this new bill. But nonetheless, there were some aspects that were a bit controversial. For example, there was a component that was going to require citizens, the Kenya Revenue Authority, to access personal data of citizens. Because in Kenya we have a lot of mobile transactions, the mobile money, M-Pesa. And so they want the plan that the government had was to see if KRA could really access those type of personal data to expand their tax collection. But that was really fought back even at the National Assembly, and it didn't. That part didn't get to really pass. And so I think this is a bill that is largely acceptable, even though not the best for majority of Kenyans. But I think, yes, so that's where we are as we speak, Larry.
Looking at what's playing out so far with the president signing the bill into law at this point, what next in your view?
Right. So moving on from here, Kenyans' expectations is we hope to see Kenyans hope to see better services in terms of education, in terms of agriculture, in terms of health access, because these are some of the critical sectors that drives Kenya's economy. The World Bank just early this year projected a growth for Kenya of about 4.5 to 5.3%. And this can only be achieved if the government will continue to introduce policies that allow the private sector to invest in the country, because only the private sector can really create opportunities that will help address some of the pressing challenges that keep on getting Kenyans on the street. The challenge of unemployment, industrialization can only be achieved when the private sector is supported. And I think the country needs better policies to encourage investor confidence. But without that, we will keep having Kenyans coming out on the street and protesting, and that scares away investors. Just yesterday, a lot of businesses were shut across the country, and the stock market performed very, very poorly yesterday. And for us to hit the mark that the World Bank has set as a target for our growth as a country, I think there is a need for us to really strengthen our policy environment, make it be very predictable, because that has been another challenge, having policies that keep on changing, and therefore investors cannot really count on them. So I think that's really the way to go, in my opinion.
All right, and do you think Kenya's economy can withstand, the political turmoil, sparked by this finance bill, or will investor confidence and GDP growth, do you think that might take, a significant hit?
I think generally Kenya's economy has demonstrated some resilience. As you know, just in the just concluded election, which was held in 2022. Before that, we had the 2017 election that was highly contested. We had a lot of political violence after that, but we were able to really reboot, and the economy went back, and we've experienced some growth. Just recently, I think about a year or so ago, our currency had really weakened against the dollar, but the government really tried to introduce certain policies that help to address that. I'm really confident that if the government can try and address the pressing issues that citizens are facing, especially around youth unemployment, and expand the democratic space, and really find a way to have dialogue with even the people in the opposition, that will help create some level of political stability, which is a very important prerequisite for economic growth in a country like Kenya, and I believe in any other country. We have to get our politics right. We have to get our democracy right, because that is an important prerequisite, like I said, for a stable economy.
From what you're seeing so far, are we still seeing protests over there, right now, or is there some kind of calm?
No, right now things are very calm. Yesterday, I didn't even go to work because the Gen Zs here declared yesterday a Gen Z holiday. That's what they're calling it. And the central business district, nobody could access that. The parliament was locked. As you remember last year, they breached parliament and set part of it ablaze. Yesterday, there were plans to see if they could access the State House, but that was also barricaded. I think the police picked some lessons from last year's protest, and they were a bit prepared this time. I think they were a bit also restrained in terms of how they handled the protesters. Even though we experienced some killings of about 8 Kenyans, I think the number is still growing. But I think they really try to really exercise some restraint, if you ask me. But as we speak right now, Kenyans are back to work. I think things have gone back to normalcy, as it were.
Hope normalcy, continues over there. We'll keep tracking what's playing out there with the signing of the finance bill right there in Kenya. Thank you so much. That was Steve Ogutu, the policy expert from Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larry, for having me.